Hello, this is Coach Charles Rendelman at Ithaca Archery. Today I'm going to be working with Dara Nov, who's been shooting for about a year and a half. Today we're going to be working on rhythm and continuity through the shot cycle in order to build tension and direction following the follow-through principle. So I'm going to step out of the camera and invite Dara to step in, and then we're going to get started. So last time I saw you, we worked on whole lot, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious. Of course, I introduced it. We're going to be working on rhythm, breathing, continuity, and building tension and direction, right? But I'm sure there were some highlights from our last session together, and what were they?
Well, it took, by following all the steps, it took less effort, but more power. I got more power with less effort.
Okay.
And more consistency in the shooting.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds
good. A good while.
Okay. And so we talked about breathing, and as I recall, our last session, you said that just having an effective breath cycle made a huge difference.
Yeah, I said it kept me present in what I was doing because I had to count and not have my mind wander or
Got it.
go a step ahead.
Right.
Where I am.
So part of what I'm thinking about today, in addition to the things, right, breathing, rhythm, connection, continuity is connection and staying connected. And one of the things that I'm thinking a lot about today is mental toughness or mental management, right? And one of the things in particular for you is really staying focused and specific on movement and position. So if you don't mind, what I would like to see is thinking about the breath cycle. Go ahead and demonstrate your shot cycle. So I'm not sure if the camera caught it, but one of the things that I'm thinking about in terms of continuity is the way your bow hand and your hook are connected to the bow. And one of the things we talked about last time was the idea of maintaining consistent pressure between the hands as the tension in the bow increases throughout the draw cycle. And so, of course, you don't do this with the bow, but when you're practicing with the band, I see that your bow hand is straight, if you will. The wrist isn't bent. And so, if you don't mind, demonstrate one more time, but think really carefully about that bow hand. Did you see it change?
Yeah, it's
right there. Yep. So what I would like to do is really set the hook and the grip at set. Right? So this is kind of about continuity. Continuity being once your hook and grip are established, they don't change, right? And by having it's not really a fixed hand position, but a set hand position, we can focus more on the pressure of the bow, against the hands, as opposed to thinking about, how do I need to move my hand so that the bow feels more comfortable, for example.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's your experience, but all right, so let's take another look. And one thing I like, I'm just going to stop, is, for the band. It's okay for the band to fall right on that lifeline. Okay, so breathing in, and then full exhale, and then half in. And it seems like that's pretty comfortable for you.
Yeah, that's comfortable.
Do you have any thoughts about what you're doing at the moment?
No, I just want to do it consistently.
Right.
Sometimes, like what happened last time is I went to anchor without really drawing to load. For a while I was shooting, I'm like, why are they all ending up low with the arrows?
Okay.
And then I discovered, I'm like, oh, I'm going right to here before I actually, draw to load.
Got it. So, I'd like to talk about that in a minute, but one of the things I'm thinking about, because one of the things I'm thinking about is rhythm, right? Because the breath cycle really does, I think, facilitate setting a rhythm, right? And so, before we talk about what I'm going to call continuity, or the follow-through principle being tension and direction, and building tension and direction through the shot cycle, right? We kind of start at zero and set, and then as soon as we set alignment, there's going to be effort and back, which increases, right?
Yeah.
And so, I call that continuity, but let's just touch base about rhythm real quick. And what I'm kind of wondering is, now that you have the breath cycle, do you feel like the pace of your shot cycle has changed?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, before the pace was pretty quick.
Right.
Or I would consciously start slow, and then after half an hour, I'd be like,
Got it. Okay.
I don't think that was all bad, because it got to a point where it became one continuous movement, but it also, it was a little bit too, not aggressive, but too sharp.
Right.
So things would go out of alignment, little steps would be skipped, and it would collapse.
Okay.
After a while.
Okay. So I heard you say two things that are kind of highlights. One is that before you had the breath cycle, you would shoot each individual arrow too quickly, and then over the duration of a practice session, for example, your shot sequence would change pace.
Yeah.
Right.
And in changing pace, it would change.
Right. Of course.
Like, not consciously, but it would
Right.
just little things that should have been balanced would fall out of balance.
So I think one of the things that you can think about as you work on the breath cycle is think of it as a time signature, if you will,
Okay.
or think of it as I don't know. It's kind of weird, because for a while, we were trying to set the shot cycle to music, for example, and what would be a good piece of music to fit, and to be honest, I never really found one, right? But I do think that we have a certain cadence.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what I'm thinking about, and so one of the things I encourage you to think about is finding a cadence that works for you, right? And in the technical, technically, right, with the shot sequence, you've got setup, and then which can happen kind of slowly, and I don't mind if it does, because I want to be deliberate.
Yes.
But then draw to load is faster, right? We want to draw quickly enough that we don't ever feel overpowered by the bow.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So let's talk about continuity real quick, and one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I'm kind of wondering about your experience, is this connection between the hook and the grip. And have you been able to focus on or think about keeping the pressure even against the bow hand and against the hook as you move through the shot cycle? Or is that kind of something that it's like, I don't know, maybe sometimes, maybe not?
I think more than sometimes. I mean, since our last session, that session, and now, it's definitely on my mind. In my practice after that, yeah, I did, because if I don't give pressure to the bow, then things start collapsing.
Right.
So I was pretty conscious about that.
Okay. Because I think there's a relationship
Yeah.
between the kind of pressure we experience between the hands and our ability to shift effort from the front of our body into the back of our body. If one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, is how we can have a tendency to pull.
Yeah.
Right? We set up the bow, and then there's a pull to move into position. and I think that throws the body out of balance, right? And so, how effectively can I give the bow direction and load into the back on the bow side if I'm hoisting the string from the drawing side, right? And I think, my observation of you before is that you would really shift your drawing shoulder rapidly to try to achieve alignment, right? And wouldn't necessarily address direction towards the target.
Sometimes,
right?
but not all the time.
Okay.
I mean, there was some success I was having doing that.
Right.
But
absolutely.
It became. I mean, essentially, it was. That was what I did.
Right.
Push this out and pull this back.
Got it. Okay.
And if I do it at the same time, it feels okay.
Got it. Okay. So now that's the point I was trying to make, is synchronizing.
But, it had to go pretty quickly because it's weight.
Right.
So
it's push and then kind of pull around, right?
Like this,
yeah.
With a little waist, but it was very linear. And I didn't realize that.
Got it. Okay. So are you finding that by changing, this a little bit, that you're moving a little bit more angularly, or?
I mean, I think of it more kind of in a circle, but I would say angularly.
I think circular makes sense. The thought that I try to have is leverage.
Right.
How much leverage can I use to make the work that I have to do easier?
I think with that pulling though thing, what really the front hand moving up and down is kind of what for me was important to that's very difficult. Like the subtle movements of trying to get it at the target. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're here with what we did with here, it was, my whole body is kind of involved, so I feel more stable. The other way, it's just this arm in front.
Okay.
It's very difficult to
get
it. Not impossible, but it's more difficult to have the subtle movement.
Okay.
I think.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was, after about an hour of doing that, I could get it, but I couldn't quite get past a certain point.
You mean before or since our last session, or
with the old way?
Right. And I just want to make a point. I just want to make the point that success is relative for you, right? We're not talking about sort of beginner shooting, right?
Yeah.
We're talking, at least in my mind, we're talking about taking your success to a new level, right? And being able to do that, I think, requiring a change.
Absolutely. I couldn't get past, I get into red and yellow mostly, but I couldn't get the groups I want.
Exactly. Right.
That's what I want to get right now.
So let's talk about loading into the back a little bit, and how using this process of the breath cycle. Let's just say the breath cycle, right? I don't think we have to talk about rhythm a whole lot, but how can you use the breath cycle and your movement into position to build and really load into the back, and one of the things that I think about, right, is opportunities to establish a couple of things. One, loading effort, and then another is anatomical draw length, right?
Right.
And so, I guess I'd like to suggest a couple of cues, and one of those cues will be that you can establish your skeletal structure at the end of your exhale, right?
Okay.
And so, do you have any clue about what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping, right,
yeah,
that
yeah.
Why don't you, if you don't mind, demonstrate what your understanding of that would be? And then let down. Right. And so having done that, and again, going back to balance between the hands, right, having established skeletal structure, right, there's a couple of things. One, the opportunity to load into the back, right, and I'm hoping you feel that.
Yeah.
And then the other is good. And then the other is that if you have stable skeletal structure, it isn't going to move, right? one of the things that I'm thinking about is like, if you've got a, you know, a broken joist in a house, you know, you put a pump jack under it and you jack it up, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get it where you want it to be, you can get busy with the work of replacing the joist, for example. You know, and one thing that you're not gonna do is change the jack, right? You're gonna leave the jack alone, and that's gonna hold the house stable while you do the work. And you know, that's the operative idea that I'm thinking of here. So let's do that one more time. And then what I would like to see you do once you get into your, you know, your setup position with alignment is just pause, and then I'm going to come over and talk a little bit about how to find or how to really initiate loading effort into the back, and then we'll start to take a look at how to build that effort through the remainder of the draw cycle, right? And so you're just going to hold that position, right? And now we're talking about pressure here to equal pressure here, right? Mm-hmm. But then also inviting effort to load into, you know what I'm saying, your back, right? So how are you going to go from here to the next position and simultaneously increase loading effort, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you don't mind, let down, and then maybe tell me, you know, we talked about it a little bit, so what is that like for you?
What I was doing at this point, I was focusing on moving my tricep, like, back.
Okay.
Like this is where I say it's like a round thing.
Yeah, because you could say it's got a linear direction, but you know, it really is an arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So from here, I go like this.
Okay.
And then anchor.
So one of the things that I saw when you just demonstrated that is that your shoulder shifted some, and you know, and this kind of relates back to setting a post or, you know, a jack to support a house, right? Okay. You know, it would kind of be like we're removing the broken joist and like kicking the jack.
Okay.
Right.
That was one of the questions I have. Is this the movement?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, but you don't want your shoulder to move.
Well, you don't want your, you know, if you're, you know, to use the NTS term, you don't want your barrel of the gun to change. Right? You don't want the length to change. And you don't want the amount of effort that you're using to establish you know, the barrel of the gun to decrease, especially.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. You want that to increase, and so I think any movement in the drawing shoulder, right, the shoulder blade position and that sort of thing, needs to build loading effort. And so I think like an intentional sort of repositioning can sometimes imbalance or disrupt that effort, and we want, and that's, you know, this goes to what I mean by continuity. We want that effort to increase smoothly.
Right. Okay.
So I probably haven't been clear about that. So, you know, let's just isolate it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Right here, and let's just kind of, you don't even need to raise your bow arm, right? Let's bring, you know, there we go. Okay. And then you're going to do your coil, and then this is going to shift, right, into a straight line. And then how do you get from here, you know, draw the load and build intensity without a lot of movement in the shoulder, right? And I think it is kind of an isolation here, right? But I also think, this is my experience, so I don't know, you know, I can't really go by the textbook necessarily, although I think I've been told that there's an intensification of effort in the tricep, right? So it's not just movement, it's actually using It's kind of like I set my skeleton so that it's strong and stable. I use effort to hold that position, and then I add additional
Okay.
muscle
So
effort.
when my shoulder was moving, what was it exactly doing? So I'm not sure what. Is it? Am I going like this or something?
Got it. So let me step into the camera and then watch me. So what I'm seeing is, right?
It's good you're left-handed.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Is so we've got this setting the barrel of the gun, right?
Yeah.
But then in order to draw the load, there's a
Okay,
kind of
okay,
thing,
all right.
right?
As
So-
opposed to isolating.
Yes,
All right.
and it's almost a transition from moving one part of the body to moving an additional or another part of the body, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's do this. If you don't mind, kind of pretend that this is your target, right? So I hate to say it, but so that the camera can see you.
Sure.
So you're going to set barrel of the gun. Now this doesn't move, does it?
No.
There we go. Right? Yeah, it's this.
Okay, and then I was doing like this.
Yes. Yeah, you were doing an extra shrug. And I've been told a couple of things. One, the shoulder blade doesn't move. I've also been told that the shoulder blade kind of rocks across the back a little bit.
That's what I feel like it's rocking across.
Okay, got it.
I feel this moving.
Right.
But I was going like this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you were
Which
really
throws
putting
the-
pressure
throws the
on.
alignment off.
So let's practice that a little bit. And one thing that I'm going to suggest is when you set your alignment originally, keep your drawing hand, your hook, no farther than. Don't bring it back any farther than your shoulder.
Okay.
Your both shoulder for now.
Okay.
So go ahead and set alignment. And now, without really, there you go. So that's kind of different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot different.
Okay. And so that would be your half inhale,
Yep.
right? So let's try that with the breath cycle, right? And then set alignment, exhale, right? And then half inhale, good job. And then you're coming to anchor. And of course, we're sort of working on, I'm gonna make a quick correction here. We're sort of working on.
I had actually.
Yes.
Where the elbow should be placed, because I never raise it up, and I see everybody else raising it.
So it's kind of weird, and I'm exploring that a little bit. The elbow should be slightly elevated, I think, but, with bare bow and a higher anchor, I think we have to be careful about that, we have to pay attention to that. One of the kind of the close external cues that I've thought about, or it's been pointed out to me, is that it would be great to have a straight line. It would be great to have a straight line from the heel of the bow hand to the point of the drawing elbow, right? So the direction of force, and again, continuity and connection, right? If you're talking about even and equal pressure between the hands, keeping, a straight line from the pressure against the bow hand all the way to the point of the drawing elbow does kind of make sense.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's probably a good reference for us to think about, rather than, raise the elbow. I'm kind of moving it because of what I can see externally. Right?
Okay, I see.
And if you set up, so let's set up a little. We're going to come up, right? So now we're getting all technical, right?
Okay.
Now, if you coil and set there you go, right? And then you can really engage that tricep to bring it back. And then when you anchor, right? So now we have, right, more or less a straight line.
Yes.
Hard to see, right?
Okay, so I should set up higher.
I think so.
I experimented with that too, because you said to cover the
Yeah.
elbow, so that was good for me.
And let's think about breath, right? Let's think about breath real quick. If you're inhaling, you can really fill up the lungs, right? And so you can think about your setup movement as inhale up, and then exhale to set alignment is coming down, and then half inhale is coming up again, right? And so when you draw, you're actually, you're coming around with the land too, but you're also coming up as an anchor. Right?
Jenny's really good at that.
Yep,
That's what I videoed her a couple, 4 times we had with that the other night.
got it.
So I watched.
Yeah. And you're coming to anchor. And now, this is going to be really important for you. You cannot give up here, right? This is actually building intensity. You should feel it
I
here.
do.
You should feel it here,
I do.
here, here, here.
I feel all that.
Okay, okay.
I think also lifting it up makes a difference. It engages
Good.
those muscles.
I agree. I think
Where here, I'm more likely to go into my shoulders.
Yes.
I don't go up a certain, okay.
we have to go up
It's like a
above
pull-up.
to come down, exactly, rather than staying low and then trying to lift up. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna cut this off. We're at 26 minutes, so let's get to practice.
Okay.
Thank you for watching.